Now, I will reveal the secrets of survival in the Middle Ages that history books don't talk about. A night in a stone castle seems romantic until the cold sets in, tightening the walls and making the air dry and harsh. On such a night, even massive doors sound quieter, and every breath reminds you of a time when warmth was a luxury, not the norm. There is no central heating, no familiar comforts, and it becomes clear why small decisions meant so much. Step by step, we will figure out how to survive such a night without losing your cheerfulness, strength, and peace of mind. This will be a calm and honest story about real techniques that help people in the Middle Ages stay warm and sane. Watch the video to the end, and you will learn how to turn a cold castle into a place where the night passes safely and meaningfully. What if I told you that everything you believed about warmth in a castle is not true? Stone walls do not provide heat on their own, but they can preserve what you create. Castle dwellers understood that the main resource of the night was not fire, but order of action. Upon entering a cold hall, they did not rush to the hearth, but began by organizing the space. The fewer drafts, the longer any heat, even weak, lasts. The first thing they did was choose a place where the air was slightly warmer and calmer. These were corners, niches, and dead ends of corridors where air currents did not flow freely. Stairwells with narrow flights had an amazing heat trap effect. The air rose slowly there, which meant it did not carry away precious degrees of heat. Such simple geography saved us better than any beautiful promises. I will reveal the most closely guarded secret of a cold night. Warmth is born not from one big gesture, but from a dozen small ones. Close the gap in the door and you get a minute of comfort. Raise the screen and you trap a quiet wave of warmth near the floor. Move the table closer to the wall and you reduce the area where the air circulates. These little things added up to a system that worked until dawn. The hidden truth that everyone keeps quiet about. The warmest part of the room is not the place by the fire, but the area without wind. The fire is inviting, but the airflow eats away at its benefits when there is a large opening nearby. Therefore, people did not sit in a line, but in a semicircle and slightly to the side. This preserved both the visibility of the fire and the calmness of the air. It looked modest, but it worked. Interior doors and heavy curtains served as simple barriers. They were not moved unnecessarily because each open door let out the hard-earned heat. If there were not enough doors, temporary screens were made from thick fabric and wooden frames. The barrier did not provide heat itself, but it stopped the movement of air, and that was more important than it seemed at first glance. What was found in the old archives confirms the power of repetitive actions. The night was divided into short sections: preparation, warming up, maintenance, rest. Each section had its own goal and its own simple steps. This rhythm was calming and filled people with confidence in the morning to come. When there is order, the cold loses its power. An experiment that did not go according to plan always began with disorder. As soon as things were laid out in the aisles, the draft would bypass all the barriers. Move the screen toward the window, and it will start to draw in the cold. That is why we kept clean lines of movement and neat fabric joints. We blocked direct air pass and kept the bypasses under supervision. A secret passed down from generation to generation. It is warmer where there is less emptiness. They reduced the volume in which people lived and left empty and cold halls outside. Rooms within rooms were created with screens, chests, and shelves. A small space is easier to heat than a large hall. This rule has always worked. Here's a shocking truth. Warmth is not just about degrees, but also about a calm, breathing rhythm. When a person is restless, they make the air restless. When movements are smooth and measured, the air remains calm. In such an environment, even a weak fire is more useful than a bright flame in a draft. Simple discipline defeated haste. Thank you for reading carefully. It is very interesting to hear your point of view. What do you think about the fact that the main protection against the cold is not the power of fire, but the order of space? Where are you watching us from, and what techniques work for you in winter? Do you agree that small actions are more important than a single big one? Write about it in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new videos. Your support helps us continue these analyses. Are you ready for the shocking truth? The warmest clothing in a castle is not the thickest fabric or the most expensive fur, but the right combination of layers. In the old halls, they knew that it is not the item that keeps you warm, but the system. Warmth is the movement of air controlled by the body. That is why in the Middle Ages, combinations were valued rather than individual items. They started with the most important part, the bottom layer. It had to be thin, even, and smooth. Its job was to absorb moisture but not retain it. The fabric had to quickly release moisture to the outside so that the skin remained dry. Moisture is the main enemy of warmth. It steals heat even at above freezing temperatures. Therefore, people chose dense but breathable fabrics. Linen, soft wool, homespun thread treated with ash. The next layer, the intermediate one, was thicker and looser, creating an air gap. This air became a quiet insulator, pliable and reliable. The outer layer held everything together, blocking drafts, breaking up air currents, and closing gaps. Even if the wind penetrated the first layer of fabric, it lost its force in the second and died out in the third. This was how the simple but perfect physics of layering worked. I noticed that the most accurate rule was that smooth inner fabric facilitated movement. If clothing does not slide, it interferes with the body, pulling layer upon layer, and air escapes through the folds. When the fabric moves freely, the heat remains in balance. The layers should slide like the pages of a book, close together but not sticking. Then a person disturbs their clothing less and disturbs the air around them less. Any jerking, adjusting, or straightening is unnecessary movement, which means heat loss. Old writings say, "Those who are cold fuss." Therefore, clothing should obey the body, not demand attention. The sleeves and collar were not tightened to the point of stiffness. They were left slightly open but controlled. The air inside had to have room to work. It warmed better when it moved slowly. To tighten too much is to stifle the movement of heat. To leave it too loose is to let the flow in. The balance was found by the sensation of breathing. If the air inside was warm and not damp, then everything was assembled correctly. Old sewing masters knew how to check this without words. They would place their palm on the collar, and if they felt living warmth, they knew that the fabric was breathing. The belt served not a decorative but a thermal function. It gathered the middle layer and made the volume compact so that the heat would not spread into the void. A heat center appeared inside the body, a place where the air did not circulate but remained in a tight ring. A simple ribbon tied evenly around the waist could warm better than an expensive cloak. This was because it was not the material that warmed, but the shape, the compactness that retained energy. People felt this intuitively. When the belt was in place, their backs were warmer, their breathing was more even, and they felt less tired. Special attention was paid to the hands and neck. These areas of the body lose heat the fastest, especially in dry air and wind. A simple stand-up collar created a chamber effect. Air was trapped at the chest, warming the breath. Turned-up cuffs did the same for the hands. In castles, where the stone was cold, this was more important than an extra layer. A warm neck means a warm back, and warm hands mean working fingers. It was a small thing, but it determined the outcome of a long evening. Shoes were chosen not by the thickness of the sole, but by how well they kept air around the foot. It shouldn't be too tight inside, but emptiness is also harmful. Too loose, and the air circulates without warming up. If they were too tight, the heat would escape through sweat and dampness. A balance was needed between the two. A soft inner sock, an air layer, and strong outer leather. Then the foot would stay warm even on a stone floor. The cloak was not worn all the time. It was not worn for work because overheating is the first step to cooling down. If you sweat, the cold will take its revenge in an hour. Therefore, the cloak served as a tool for pausing. It was thrown on when sitting down, when stopping, when the evening chill began. It was not a status symbol, but part of the rhythm. Taking it off, drying it, putting it away, putting it back on. This was the discipline of the body. Now here's a question for you. Which technique seems most effective? Keeping air close to the body, controlling dryness, or gathering heat with a belt? What would you add to your layering system if you had to spend the night in a stone hall? Share your thoughts. These details gather knowledge that never grows old. In the next chapter, you will learn how a smokeless fire becomes an ally of silence, and why a properly arranged smoldering fire warms longer than a bonfire visible from a mile away. We will discuss how to make the heat work for you instead of escaping into the draft. Is what I am about to show you banned in 12 countries? No, but the hidden truth is that loud fire rarely helps. In the castle, it was not brightness that was valued, but controlled smoldering. A small brazier gave off less light, but retained heat longer. It did not disturb the night air or provoke sudden drafts. It was a warm spot around which order was born. Are you ready to learn the truth about slow heat? It rests on 3 pillars: fuel preparation, air restriction, and a stable base. Fuel that is too loose burns quickly and unevenly. Fuel that is too dense suffocates and produces raw smoke. Balance was achieved by testing small portions. I will reveal the most closely guarded secret of smoldering. Do not rush to open the dampers. Let the heat gather strength in a tight nest and only then get a drop of air. This rhythm creates a steady glow, not flashes. Glow is a comfortable night mode. It is not annoying or tiring. It is important to understand the simple logic. You cannot heat a large hall with a single brazier, but you can create local areas where people can rest and recover. These areas were arranged wisely, not too close to the aisles. An aisle is a path for the wind, not for heat. Therefore, the heat was placed in quiet areas. Guess how long it took to create a steady rhythm? Often, half an hour was enough to go from flashes to steady smoldering. After that, fuel was added not in handfuls, but in thin portions. Each portion was laid down in a dense layer. The layer retained the heat and did not release it into the flow. The brazier was placed on a stable base that did not destroy the heat from below. Cold stone takes away the power of coal. A wooden stand or a layer of dense material created a buffer. This buffer kept the temperature stable. Stability is synonymous with a good night. Low barriers were placed in a small area around the brazier. They blocked the movement of air and protected the glow. Any extra draft could destroy the balance. The barriers were not high so as not to interfere with breathing. Everything worked quietly and calmly. The secret, which has only now been revealed in reconstructions, is simple. Do not feed the fire with large portions in the middle of the night. A large portion stirs up smoke and disturbs people. It is better to maintain smoldering with small steps at regular intervals. Then the night passes smoothly, without jerks and fuss. This is how people save their strength. The secret that will change your winter. Fire is a tool of rhythm, not battle. You don't argue or compete with it. It is guided gently, like a leisurely stream along a stone bed. Where there are few words and many calm gestures, the cold retreats on its own. Consistency is the best helper. If you are interested in similar analyses and enjoy stories about everyday life in the past, check out our other videos on the channel. There we examine everyday solutions that change the outcome of long nights and hard days. Selections on clothing, housing, and tools help to see the whole picture. Your attention makes such research possible. Join us and delve deeper. I will reveal the most closely guarded secret. The warmest room in a stone castle is not the chamber by the hearth or the room with tapestries. The safest place is a room within a room, built by hand. People created a small perimeter with screens, chests, benches, heavy curtains, and thick fabrics. Sometimes they even used bed canopies or folded chest lids. From the outside, it looked simple, almost poor, but it worked flawlessly. Inside, it became quieter. The air moved slowly, and the warm swirls of breath did not have time to dissipate. Such a shelter did not provide warmth in itself. It allowed the body's heat to remain nearby. It was not a dwelling, but a microclimate created by attentiveness. The first step was to find the right wall, not the one by the window, nor the one where the air flowed, but the one where the stone was dry and neutral. A damp wall steals heat like a sponge. A good spot was determined by touch. If the surface was cool but not damp, it was ready to hold heat, not absorb it. They placed the back of a chest or a bench against it, then stretched a thick cloth to the nearest support, a beam, a bed, or a screen. The result was a semi-enclosed niche where the air began to work according to its own laws. It could be built in a few minutes, but the result was immediately noticeable. The noise subsided and breathing became warmer. The height of the shelter was important. A structure that was too high collected drafts from above, and one that was too low stifled breathing. The ideal height was just above the shoulder of a seated person. The top had to allow a little air to pass through so that moisture from breathing did not accumulate. A multi-layered bedding was laid on the floor, and this was the main secret. The bottom layer, dense, made of dry fabric or matting, cut off the cold from the stone. The middle layer, loose, made of straw, dry leaves, felt, collected air. The top layer, soft, made of wool or old fabric, gave the body peace. The more evenly a person lies, the less they disturb their own warmth. The body should not have to work against the cold ground. It should rest. A bedding is not a luxury, but the foundation of the night and the entire outcome of rest depends on how it is laid. Inside the shelter, there was a certain order. Warm items were kept closer to the center, cold ones near the outer line. Clay pots, hot water bottles, woolen items. Everything was gathered closer to the body. Metal, stone, and water were placed further away so as not to draw in the cold. Even a simple bucket of water was placed in a corner or wrapped in cloth so as not to cool the air. The order of things became the order of warmth. The light inside was dimmed and directed downward. Too bright a light awakens the eyes and causes movement, and movement is the enemy of warmth. Candles were placed low, often behind a clay partition or under a small canopy, so that the flame would not flicker. Soft light maintained silence and did not create sharp shadows in which cold air circulates. Old masters believed that shadows can also cool if there are too many of them. Therefore, they learned to leave an even twilight where the air is calm and the warmth is not disturbed. Simple things became a system of survival: a screen, a chest, a curtain, breathing, and silence. A room within a room is not an invention of comfort, but a tool for life. It taught the most important thing, that warmth does not need to be sought, it needs to be preserved. Without promises or grand statements, a steady rhythm is important here. On a cold night, food is not a celebration, but a tool that maintains warmth from within. Small portions at regular intervals make the body calmer and more stable. A heavy dinner overheats you for half an hour and then leaves you shivering. A restrained approach keeps things steady and predictable. They started with simple and nutritious foods that are easy to digest. Warm soups with grains filled them with slow heat without overloading the stomach. A little oil provided stability, but did not make them sleep too deeply. Salt was added in moderation, so as not to provoke excessive thirst. Taste was secondary, stability was important. Warm drinks are a separate source of calm. Small sips every half hour maintained a steady state. Drinks that are too hot are tiring and make you sweat, which leads to dampness. Drinks that are too cold steal warmth, and the night becomes longer. A warm middle ground wins the distance. Sweetness worked like a quick step, but not like a long road. A little honey or dried fruit gave strength for a short distance. If you overdid it, the warmth didn't last long, and then lethargy set in. Therefore, sweets were saved for specific moments when you needed to perk up before your shift. Balance restored clarity. The rhythm of eating was adjusted to the night schedule. Before a long shift, they chose a more substantial portion with grain and oil. Before bed, they chose something light and warm so as not to wake the body with unnecessary work. Between these points, they kept narrow but regular bridges of small snacks. This way, the night did not fall into extremes. Drinks were kept close at hand. Accessibility saved them from fuss. A mug within arm's reach reduced unnecessary movement and did not disturb the shelter. They did not fill it to the brim so as not to spill on the bedding. Any dampness takes its revenge at the end of the night when strength is at its lowest. Caution saved heat. They ate silently and slowly, pausing between sips. Rushing woke up the stomach, and it woke up the whole body. When breathing is even, food settles gently. Then sleep comes more easily, and waking up does not rock you from side to side. The night rewards patience. If they had to work, they would delay their last substantial meal by an hour before resting. The body had time to do its part, and the body did not get hot under the blanket. This made sleep deeper and warmer. It was easier to wake up, which meant less fuss and less heat loss. This is more important than bright flavors. In the morning, they returned to simple, warm food so as not to break the bridge between nighttime rest and daytime activity. Food that was too heavy made breathing difficult and disrupted the rhythm. Soft food helped the body accept the light in transition to activity. This way, the chain was not broken at the very first step. The day began calmly. Are you ready to learn the truth about the routine that warms better than any fire? The warmest mode is not the one with a lot of fire, but the one without surges. The night was divided not into hours, but into quiet intervals, where each person knew that the warmth depended on them. In a castle, in a winter camp, in a dugout, the principle was the same: rhythm instead of heat. One person kept the fire smoldering, another watched over the shelters, and a third rested so as not to disturb the air. Together, they created a steady pulse where breathing, movement, and fire coincided. When there are no sudden transitions, the silence becomes dense, and the house retains heat like a living body. The first thing they did was to distribute responsibilities, not in words, but in deeds. Everyone was given their own time slot, their own task, and their own point of responsibility. One is responsible for the coal and ashes, another for the fabric and curtains, and a third for the water and the breathing of the room. No one interfered with each other because each role was woven into the common fabric. The person on duty did not leave early or stay late so as not to break the rhythm. The sleeper did not interfere so as not to disturb the air. Everyone knew that an extra word cooled faster than the wind. Therefore, at night they spoke rarely and quietly. Order warmed better than any log because it maintained balance. The transition between shifts was a moment of special respect. The new person on duty approached in advance, slowly, softly, listening to the sound of smoldering and the breathing of the room. The old guard would gesture to show where the heat was strongest, where it was weakest, and where the smoke was flowing evenly. A quick check of the shelters also had its own code. They made sure that the edges of the fabric lay flat, that the curtain did not move, that the bedding remained dry. They checked with their hands, not their eyes. At the hour of greatest weakness, closer to dawn, fatigue set in, like sleep without sleep. To stay alert, they turned on small anchors. They took a sip of warm drink, stirred the coals, adjusted the curtain. One movement, one sound, one breath, and the mind returned. This simple sequence was like a seam holding the fabric of the night together. Without it, everything would fall apart. Those who kept night watch knew that silence was not peace, but work. The sleeper did not hide his face in the fabric. It seemed like a trifle, but it determined the outcome of the night. The damp fabric near the mouth draws heat like a sponge and causes chills by morning. Therefore, a narrow channel was left on the side so that the air could escape quietly without cooling the chest. Checking the floor was considered the final touch. The bedding should not touch the stone. There should always be a buffer between them. If the edge got wet, it was turned over and dried over embers or against an interior wall. Even a single dry palm's width could relieve the shivering. And here's the basic question. Who are you on this night? The one who fans the flames, or the one who keeps the embers burning? Who listens to the breath of the house, and who warms the air with words? Think about which role strengthens the common peace more. In the next chapter, you will learn how stone, water, and fabric create slow sources of heat that continue to work while you sleep. We will put together simple bundles that require no effort but restore confidence until morning, as if the night itself is learning to protect you. Sometimes your best ally is not the flame itself, but the memory of it. A stone that has been warmed in advance retains heat longer than you might think. It is not placed directly against the body, but left a small distance away. Then the heat comes gently and does not burn. Such a source does not require attention, only reasonable preparation. Stone tiles or pebbles work well in combination with thick fabric. The fabric prevents the heat from escaping quickly and protects the skin. If the layer is too thin, the heat escapes in a flash and leaves a void. If it is too thick, the heat does not reach its destination. The middle ground makes for a peaceful night. Water in a closed container retains heat particularly evenly. It is hidden in a cover so as not to humidify the air and disturb the shelter. The heat comes in a slow wave and supports the center of the body. When the wave recedes, there is no cold pit left. This distinguishes water from empty stone. Fabric covers were chosen without roughness so as not to catch extra layers. A smooth surface pulls minimally and does not wake the bedding. If necessary, a second removable layer was added to remove moisture. Changing a thin cover took seconds, and the benefit lasted for hours. Small steps, big results. Stone walls can also be included in the work if you act in advance. During the day, while it was still light, we chose a wall that absorbed the heat of the rays. In the evening, we moved our shelters closer to this place. The wall gives off little heat, but it is stable, and this stability is worth the effort. Silence wins over flashes. Severe fatigue is deceiving. You want to snuggle up to the source and fall asleep, but it is wiser to keep a palm's distance. The body will not overheat and start sweating. You will wake up without a sudden chill. This is more important than instant relief. Everything that retains heat loves order. Warm up, cover, arrange, check. These 4 steps form a short chain that is easy to repeat. It does not require skill, only attention. And attention is the warmest thing in a stone castle. With it, the night ceases to weigh heavily. A warm night is built on currents you cannot see. Windows and doors are not just openings, but pathways for the wind. They were turned into quiet boundaries where the air does not blow, but glides. To achieve this, thick fabrics and reasonable gaps were used. The main thing is not to overdo it so that breathing remains free. The windows were not opened wide in the coldest weather, but a narrow gap was left away from the shelters. The gap acted as a silent valve, removing excess moisture. If everything is closed tightly, humidity will prevail by dawn. If opened too wide, the cold will take away the night. Balance again determines the outcome. The doors to the far rooms were kept closed so as not to feed the empty halls with heat. Extra spaces are like wells into which energy flows away. It is better to leave only those spaces where people live in use. Then every breath brings benefit, not anxiety, and the whole house becomes an ally. Passages should not be cluttered, but they can be calmed. Narrow screens and low objects slow down the flow without hindering movement. The air flows more gently, and the shelter breathes more evenly. This technique is simple and reliable. It does not attract attention, but it works. Stone openings like smooth fabric edges. If the edge hangs unevenly, it trembles and calls the wind. Pull the edge without fanaticism, and the trembling will disappear. The air will stop clinging, which means it will stop getting angry, and it will become quieter. In large halls, the floor is often colder than it seems. A low barrier that slows down the flow helps. It is placed away from the main paths. The barrier is not visible from a distance, but it is noticeable to warmth. It holds back what so easily slips away. If there is an unpleasant smell of dampness, look for the source of the flow rather than the source of the smell. Somewhere there is a gap, and the cold is bringing moisture with it. Cover it with a soft strip of fabric and check again in a minute. The air will respond with silence. This is the best indicator. The coldest night is valuable not only because it is over. Its power lies in the fact that it leaves traces from which we can learn. If you take your time, you can read the whole map. Where the fabric got wet, there was a hidden draft. Where a shiver ran down your spine, there was a sag or a pocket of air. Where you slept peacefully, that's where the house helped. And you need to remember that knot. Cold is not an enemy, but a teacher, if you look at it without irritation. Each winter corrects the previous one. The morning after a difficult night should not be turbulent. The first rule is to move without fuss. People who knew the cold started with a small circle of ventilation. They did not open it wide, but let the air out through a narrow valve, like through the neck of a vessel. The moisture came out, but the icy river did not come in. They did not tear off the covers, but opened them slightly, like a delicate book. Just enough for the pages to breathe. They turned the bedding over with their palms without shaking it. They gave it a minute of silence. During this time, the stone had time to release the moisture and become dry again, as if exhaling a heavy sleep. Then came the second round, gathering heat. Dry areas were moved closer to the core, damp areas closer to the edge. It was like playing with the center of gravity. Everything that retains heat should be in the middle. Everything that gives off moisture on the outside. This is how the house returned to equilibrium, like a body after sleep. Things were not scattered or rearranged thoughtlessly. Each had its place, and each helped the others. Even the fabric draped over the back of the bench had a direction, across the wind, not along it. Small habits created an invisible architecture of peace. Breakfast was a continuation of the night, not the beginning of the day. Food should warm you from the inside, not wake you up with a storm of flavors. Therefore, no sharp spices, acids, or smoked fats. Only warm soup, soft bread, herbal tea, or a weak broth. Then they checked the boundaries of the house. Windows, doors, curtains, corners. If the fabric had darkened from moisture somewhere, it was removed first and dried separately. A dry edge is a guarantee of a peaceful evening. A damp edge is the beginning of the next problem. If left as is, the house will absorb moisture into the walls, and in a day, it will return as cold. Therefore, in old houses, they always kept several spare strips of fabric for a replacement. A small supply saved the night. Heat sources also had their own order. Stones, vessels, ceramics, everything that retained heat were cleaned of dust and soot after the night and placed on dry stands. Fabric covers were washed at the first opportunity and dried in the sun or by the fire. A clean surface gives off heat more evenly, without attenuation. They knew this from experience. Cleanliness is the continuation of heat. In the long series of winters, this mattered more than firewood. What do you think of this topic about the quiet science of a warm night in a stone house? Which of the techniques seem most useful to you? A room within a room, the rhythm of decay, the warm inertia of stone, or the order of shifts? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments. It helps us make our analyses more accurate and useful. If you want more stories about everyday solutions from the past and simple survival strategies, subscribe to the channel. There are many more calm and practical episodes ahead.